Well, good evening, everyone. So, as the second part of your mini lesson, I'm now going to look at a few extracts from the beginning of The Island of Missing Trees. Just want to remind you that I couldn't show it the video earlier on, but there's the inside of the dust jacket. And I just wanted to show you the two quotes that are featured in the beginning there. There they are. Okay. So, she's dedicated this story to immigrants and exiles everywhere. The uprooted, the rerouted, the rootless. Focusing again on the sense of trees, remember? And then making it explicit, and to the trees we left behind, rooted in our memories. So, this is a kind of, it's not chapter one, it's kind of like a beginning piece. I'll do the same. I'll predict, question, and clarify for reciprocal teaching, and also focus on some important linguistic devices. So, let's start. Once upon a memory, at the far end of the Mediterranean Sea, there lay an island so beautiful and blue that the many travellers, pilgrims, crusaders, and merchants who fell in love with it either wanted never to leave or tried to tow it with hemp ropes all the way back to their own countries. I'm first of all paying attention to this once upon a memory. Of course, so many stories start with once upon a time, and it's a cliche. Don't do it in your writing. But here she's put it's a classic with a twist. It's once upon a memory. It's so important about thinking about the past. Beautiful and blue. Just emphasizing how beautiful this island is. And also pilgrims, crusaders, and merchants. It's a rule of three. But it's also emphasizing the context, the history of Cyprus. Okay. Oops. Legends perhaps, but legends are there to help us what history has forgotten. It has been many years since I fled that place on board a plane, inside a suitcase made of soft black leather, never to return. I have since adopted another land, England, where I have grown and thrived, but not a single day passes that I do not yearn to be back, home, motherland. Now, it was only on the second reading that I noticed this rather odd sentence. Inside a suitcase made of soft black leather. And it was only in reading chapter 3 that I realised that is actually from the perspective of the tree. And this is just a short section here in London in the present day. This afternoon, as storm clouds descended over London and the world turned the colour of a melancholy, Costas Kazantzakis buried me in the garden. Okay. So this first section has to be read, and I didn't realise the first time. I thought it was actually Costas. It's actually from the perspective of the tree. It must still be there where I left it, rising and sinking with the waves that break and foam upon its rugged coastline. At the crossroads of 3 continents, Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Levant, that vast and impenetrable region banished entirely from the maps of today. For those of you who don't know, let's see if I can get it. It's not going to work. It's not working for some reason. Levant was a historical area that sort of includes Cyprus and Turkey and that region there. A map is a 2-dimensional representation with arbitrary symbols and incised lines that decide who is to be our enemy and who is to be our friend, who deserves our love and who deserves our hatred, and who our sheer indifference. So that's doing a lot of work there, and that is a particular term. I'm going to write it at the bottom. Enemies and friends Love and hatred, these are opposites, aren't they? And that has a technical term of antithesis. Now, she's not doing that arbitrarily. She's not doing that coincidentally. We know that the story is about an island, Cyprus, that is divided between one half of Turkey, Muslim, and the other half Greek and Christian. And so here she's using the antithesis technique to slowly introduce us to the themes of the novel. Cartography is another name for stories told by winners. For stories told by those who have lost, there isn't one. Again, some more antithesis, winners and losers. Here is how I remember it. Still the tree. Golden beaches, turquoise waters, lucid skies. Lucid means clear. Every year sea turtles would come ashore to lay their eggs in the powdery sand. The late afternoon wind brought along the scent of gardenia, cyclamen, lavender, honeysuckle, all very strong smelling flowers. Branching ropes of wisteria climbed up whitewashed walls, aspiring to the clouds, hopeful in the way only dreamers are. Whoa, what a beautiful section, especially from here. The late afternoon wind brought along the scent of gardenia, cyclamen, lavender, honeysuckle. Sensory language. Can I fit it in? Sensory language. Now, I could choose that earlier on, but it's not letting me do it now. So, a wisteria is a purple flower that climbs up walls, effectively. Aspiring to reach the clouds. I hope you recognise what that is now. That's a personification. Plants don't aspire to anything, and neither are they hopeful in the way only dreamers are. Metaphor. When the night kissed your skin. Beautiful line. Why would he use that personification, that metaphor? Sorry, why would she? Well, the story is about love. And it's about love and losing either your love or losing your love through the location of where you live and the differing beliefs of people. So again, and of course flowers and sensory language also ties in with this idea of love. It's not a romantic novel, it's different. Okay, it's not a part of the genre of romantic novels. It's deeper than that. You could smell the jasmine on its breath. Oh. When the night kissed your skin, as it always did, you could smell the jasmine on its breath. What beautiful personification. The moon, here close to earth, hung bright and gentle over the rooftops, casting a vivid glow on the narrow alleys and cobblestone streets. And yet shadows found a way to creep through the light. Whispers of distrust and conspiracy rippled in the dark. More personification. Pen's not working. For the island was riven into two pieces, the north and the south. A different language, a different script, a different memory prevailed in each. And when they prayed, the islanders, it was seldom to the same God. Now this is a particularly, my returning students will reckon, why isn't this working? That repetition of the word different is a special technique called anaphora. It's used a lot in politician speeches. It comes up a lot in song, naturally, because songs are very repetitive. But it's the repetition of the same word of concurrent phrases or sentences. Here it's phrases, clauses. A different language, a different script, a different memory. That's anaphora. So that's the first part. That's the perspective, from the perspective of the tree, the point of view of the tree. Now, in class, I've told you about show, not tell. Now, here is actually an example where it's telling or not showing. But I think there's a reason. I think I can explain it to you. The novel is told from three perspectives at least. As I said, Ada, who's the 16-year-old who we're going to read in a minute. Her father, Costas, back in Corfu, Cyprus in 1974. And then also from the perspective of a tree. Now that's a multi-narrative and it's a dual timeline, so it's quite complicated. So if you also used consistently rich language, linguistic devices, interesting structural features within each page, that would confuse even the most dedicated reader. So I think Elif Shafak is very carefully using some degree of telling here, just because we, as the reader, need it. Okay. Now, a girl named Island. She is, hopefully this link will work. If it doesn't, hey-ho. I looked it up. So the English word for the Turkish word for island is Ada. And that's her name. So, it was the last lesson of the year at Brook Hill Secondary School in North London. Year 11 classroom. History lesson. Only 15 minutes before the bell, and the students were getting restless, eager for the Christmas holidays to start. All the students, that is, except for one. Plain, simple, lots of telling, nothing extravagant. Ada Kazantzakis, aged 16, sat with a quiet intensity in her usual seat by the window at the back of the classroom. Her hair, the colour of burnished mahogany, was gathered in a low slung ponytail. Her delicate features were drawn tight, and her large doe brown eyes seemed to betray a lack of sleep the night before. She was neither looking forward to the festive season nor feeling any excitement at the prospect of snowfall. Every now and then she cast furtive glances outside, though her expression remained mostly unchanged. Lots of characterisation there. We need to know Ada is one of the main characters, so we need to have some pretty firm details. Doe brown eyes is a metaphor. Doe is a small deer. Betray a lack of sleep. If she's not sleeping, is she feeling stressed? Is there some anxiety or grief going on there? She's got a quiet intensity. Her delicate features were drawn and tight. So there's a lot going on there. Shafak is not using linguistic devices as much as showing you very neatly that this young girl has got some issues. Around midday it had hailed, milky white frozen pellets shredding the last of the leaves in the trees, hammering the bicycle shed roof, bouncing off the ground in a wild tap dance. Aha, so here now we have some more interesting language here. So that repetition of the jarung, the past participle, if you like, shredding, hammering, bouncing, and the hail bouncing off the ground in a wild tap dance. Well, so why would she use that term? Remember that you get the marks not for identifying, not by feature spotting, but by explaining language techniques. Well, I would say that takes you back to... Sorry, that's not really straight. That really takes you back to the fact of where did her parents meet? Well, they met in a tavern. Well, that's where they met regularly. And in that tavern, it had the best food and the best music. Okay, so the thing for you to remember is that every single word has been chosen by a writer. It's not suddenly just come from their hands onto the page. They sat down and carefully thought about what they're writing. This supports, generally in a very loose way, the story. Now it had fallen quiet, but anyone could see the weather had turned decisively worse. A storm was on its way. This morning the radio had announced that within no more than 48 hours, Britain would be hit by a polar vortex, bringing in record-breaking lows, icy rains and blizzards. Water shortages, power cuts and burst mains were expected to paralyse large swathes of England and Scotland, as well as parts of Northern Europe. People had been stockpiling canned fish, baked beans, bags of pasta, toilet paper, as if getting ready for a siege. Now, I don't know about you, but that section, although she's talking about a storm, this was published in 2021, just after COVID. So she must have written most of this during the COVID lockdown period. I can't believe that she's not influenced by lockdown in this section here, especially bags of pasta and toilet paper. That was what people went mad on, wasn't it, during lockdown? So again, context. I will leave the full reading for the rest of this, because all I want to draw your attention to is we find out that her mother has died, which could explain some of the negative imagery of her tiredness and not being able to sleep in the earlier paragraph. But I just want you to, there's a long section here about her father. He sounds interesting but eccentric. He likes nature, he's a botanist. He's actually published a couple of books. These are here, they're made up, of course. Okay, but as a reader, as an advanced reader, I would be thinking, okay, so he loves nature. The two lovers, and he's the Greek Christian one, and his girlfriend Daphne meet under a tree, a fig tree, back in Cyprus. Is it linked? Does his love for her somehow is somehow symbolised by the tree? Okay, and did that somehow inspire him to become a botanist and a specialist in nature? Well, I've tried to read some of the book today, but I won't finish it until next week. I will let you know. I hope that's of help. Please continue to give me feedback. What can I do to make this better? Thank you for listening.